What's happening, guys? Shay here, Uneven Bounce. Hope you guys are well. So we thought we saw the worst of the cricketing performances in this series. India synced standard to new lows by getting absolutely creamed by innings and 76 runs in just over 3 days. A wonderful sight for us England fans today. Unfortunately, I've not got the backup I was asking for, but you know what? I'm ready for the challenge, guys. Ready to take these 4 guys on. Do you know what I mean? So it is the Indian roast. I make it's a chicken vindaloo time, guys, for us England fans out there, because we're here today to have a bit of fun. So with me, and I have to say, big up to these guys coming on. They knew what was happening, knew what was coming. I was a bit afraid because I thought I hadn't seen Sayan on social media for a while, Krishna, Kalki, since about 1:45 on Sunday. I was a bit worried what these guys had been to. I was actually about to send out search parties to Kolkata and Bangalore, respectively. But they're here today. I really appreciate them coming on. I said before, we've got the Japa merchant, Sayan Banerjee, in the house. Krishna, Kalki, I said before, Bangalore's answer to Lionel Richie. We've got Anurag, Reddy back in the house. That aircon, hope it's blowing out, mate, to keep you cool for the next hour or so, because I'm coming hot, mate. I'm coming hard and hot today. And I've got Aditya Mehta. You might see a tad of emotion from Aditya today, fresh off his Dale Steyn tribute. We also pay out tributes today to a few Indian players who I think might be getting the cut after that third test. So we'll say anyway. I've been freestyle this day, guys. I haven't even prepared this. Anyway, as you can see, we're here to discuss the third test, and that just obviously ended a few days ago now. Fantastic victory, 4 rings for the series. I think from a neutral perspective, I think we're happy than one, obviously, to keep it going. Obviously, to keep it interesting. Obviously, go into the final 2 tests. The 4th test starting on Thursday, the Oval. And we'll get to that a bit later, what team selection, etc. It all started, obviously, in the first day. Virat Kohli wins a toss. Decides to bat, obviously, and then it all was downhill from there. That was his last bit of success, pretty much, for the next 3 and a bit days. 78 all out. 78 all out, guys. And from there, there's pretty much no way back. So, Sayan, I'll start with you. I never start with you, but I will start with you today. And I go around the room. Obviously, the bowlers have been rested for a week, as we know. England had capitulated, to be fair, obviously, on that 5th day. Batting crumbled terribly. Do you think maybe that, obviously, it was a bit of cloud cover, I appreciate there as well. It was a difficult decision to make, especially in retrospect. But do you think maybe India and Kohli should have elected to have a bowl, get crack? Obviously, what was considered a weak batting outfit, even with the addition of Milan. Do you think maybe Kohli should have elected to bowl instead?
So in hindsight, if you see right now, if they would have chosen to bowl, that seems like the right decision, right? But at that point of time, the pitch was pretty flat throughout the test match, right? Because England scored, 432 runs on that pitch. So it was a pretty flat pitch. And I feel at that moment, the decision to bat was kind of fine. And Virat had won a toss after a long time. So it was pretty much done. However, James Anderson got around 2.2 degrees of swing, right, in the first hour or so, where he picked 3 wickets, the 3 main wickets. And I think that's what changed the whole match. And as we know, the Indian middle order hasn't performed at all in crucial stages in this test series. And I think that's what hit us back. 78 runs owing to, Rohit Sharma staying for long. He scored 19 valuable runs. The others going on singles, something like that. I don't think anyone else scored in double digits except Rohit Sharma, right? And it was a pretty shitty batting performance, to be honest.
Well, when you say the words 19 valuable runs, you do know that the batting's fucked, isn't it, really? When you say 19 valuable runs in the course of innings. You know it's obviously pretty bad if 19's regarded here and even mentioned. So, yeah. No, but fair enough. I mean, Krishna, we'll move on to you. I mean, what was your kind of opinion, obviously, on the batting? I mean, India running off a high. Obviously, they've smashed England, as we all know, in the previous test. The batting gets in. You thought maybe India may be a little bit overconfident going into this test match. Is that a possibility?
Probably, definitely. I mean, it definitely seems like. See, the thing is, if you look at the last, say, maybe 4 months or so, or 5 months, actually not in 4 months, last say, a year of Test cricket, we've had two catastrophic collapses. One is the 78 all out, and then the other one 36 all out. And not only that, we had a collapse in the second innings as well. We crumbled. We lost about 40 runs for 8 wickets or something, or 60 runs
Yes,
for eight
yeah,
wickets.
yeah.
Yeah, and even in the World Test Championship final, also we lost a significant amount of wickets for, like, I think we got lost about 6 or 7 wickets in that second innings for about 40-50 runs. I'm not sure about the numbers there, but
53.
something like that, right? But the reality is that these collapses are happening far too often, and there's no real diagnosis as to what is happening and why this is happening. um, and I think that's really an issue right now for India. We Everybody thought that the 36 all out was just this absurd abnormality and this anomaly that was there. We didn't think that it was going to be some. Nobody thought that it was indicative of a trend, right? But now you see it's becoming a trend. Even I think even in the England series, the first Test match, I think we also had a collapse there back in when you guys had come to India,
In
right? We had a
Chennai.
collapse in Chennai, yeah, in Chennai. So the thing is, these collapses are happening very often, and there's no, like I said, there's no diagnosis. If I had to provide a reasoning for why these collapses are happening, I think um there's no real initiative. There's no circuit breaker, if you will. There's nobody who can say, I'm gonna just stitch a partnership right now. Like, the batsman should basically say, I'm gonna stitch a partnership right now. Let's play out as many balls, maybe as many balls we can. Let's try and find singles. Let's try and find a double here and there. Let's maybe try and find a bad ball to get runs off of, rather than trying to go after good deliveries, right? We don't There's this simple application, I feel, is kind of lacking, I feel. Because you won't there are other teams also lose wickets. Losing wickets is common in every team. You lose wickets, you collapse, sometimes you lose 3 4, but you have people who can come in there and put a hold to it, maybe get you 40-50 runs partnership, and then sort of build to a total of 200 300, maybe sort of at least get some sort of some recapitulation over there. But you're not getting that with this Indian team. It's just a house of cards completely, right? So that, I think, is a bit of an issue. I think also, to an extent, guys like Pant, guys like Rahane, guys like Kohli himself, the big names who you expect to give you runs in your team, the big names who you expect that these guys are going to give, at least one of these guys is going to give me 100 in every game, right? You expect Kohli to do that. You expect Pujara to do that. You expect Pant to do that. You expect Rahane to do that. You expect these guys to do it, but they're not doing it for you, and they haven't done it for a very long period of time now. Pant, I guess he had runs in Australia. He had 100 in England, so maybe we can leave Pant out of that equation. But definitely Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane, they haven't been giving you runs consistently. They've been averaging close to 20 odd, 30 odd, which is just not enough for a premier side, a number one side in world cricket. The number 3 4 5 is not giving you runs at all. So how is that? I mean, how can you call yourself an amazing side? Because there's a clear weakness, a clear hole there. So yeah, I think India definitely have their problems cut out for them, and I don't think this Test series is any cakewalk anymore, for sure.
Discussing actually averages of the series so far, so he refers to the middle order, which I think on both sides quite brittle. So Rahana's averaging 19, Pam's averaging 17.4, Kohli's averaging 24.8, Pajara 32.4, so he propped up with the 91 he scored in this Test match. Anurag, we'll move to you. I wanted to actually discuss the batting a bit later on, but do you think that maybe the side lacks a bit of that conviction, that ruthlessness that we've seen in great Test sides over the years? Obviously, Krishna has quite rightly, pointed out the fact that you've had collapses over the last year or so, including at home to England a few months ago. Is it complacency? Is it anyone's fault? Is it Kohli? Is it Shastri? Is it just simply a team collective, maybe getting a little bit carried away with themselves?
So, Shay, to add to what Sayan and Krishna have said, on a positive note, Kohli had finally won a toss and he himself elected to bat first. Because even after the win from the Lord's Test match, it was good from him to show some positive intent, saying that my batsmen are really confident in facing these conditions, especially my openers. When you see the form of Rohit and KL Rahul, they've been very consistent if you see the past 2 to 3 years. If not Rahul, then Rohit. But the opening was always solid. It's just that the middle order kept collapsing like a pack of cards, and sometimes Rishabh Pant rescuing us. So when Krishna said there is no solution for this collapses, it's because we are facing such a situation where you have 2 to 3 guys who are out of form, and you have a wicketkeeper batsman who plays aggressively. who's going to give you a lifetime, I mean, once in a lifetime innings once in a while, but it's not going to be consistent. I think we as Indians, we need to adapt to this kind of a strategy, but it'll be great to see Rahane and Kohli to get these runs as well. But to end this, to conclude this, I would definitely say this is not complacency from the batsman. It's just bad luck where people are facing Anderson and bowlers like Robinson in really challenging conditions, who are relentless and who are looking always looking to pick wickets.
I think it's a fair point, isn't it, Anurag? I think we always can be a bit harsh on after the fact and say, oh, well, it's poor batting. But I think also you need to acknowledge the fact that England's, well, let's say the opening duo of Robinson and Anderson are highly skilled. I think Robinson, I've actually discussed a bit later when we come to England. But I think that's a very fair point. Aditya, I just want to reference the initial point that I made before we move on. If you were Steve Virat Kohli, you win the toss for the first time in God knows how long. As Anurag said, he finally won one. Would you have elected to bat, or would you maybe have stuck England in again? Because don't forget, as I said before, what we knew of England was the batting's absolutely terrible. You're going into that test pattern, right? So, granted, you dropped Sibley and brought in David Milan, but David Milan was dropped because performance against India 3 years ago at home. So we didn't know what was going to be expected. So, what would you do? Do you think it was the right choice?
No, I don't. I don't think Kohli should have batted first because, I think it was one of those instances of the pitch really flattering to deceive. The pitch wasn't as flat as it might have looked, and I do think that the team misread the conditions. So I think we can excuse it as a mistake perhaps, or just the team management getting it wrong. But either way, it made more sense to bowl first on that wicket simply because England were going to have a different set of openers, a different number 3, and there was an opportunity there to put them under pressure straight away. With the new ball in hand and with the fact that they're a bit unsettled. But when you then have England batting, having dismissed India for 78, that gives your out of form players a little bit more time to get into the groove, and they go in with that extra bit of confidence, whereas the bowlers who were on a high after that Lord's Test match don't have that degree of confidence. And as Sayan said, Anderson generated 2.2 degrees of swing. I don't think India got to even 1 degree of swing in the entire Test match. They were always between that 0.6 to 0.9 degrees of swing, and somewhere along the line, I feel like the bowlers they didn't really deliver. They simply weren't good enough, and they didn't make. They got their lengths wrong, they got their lines wrong, and I think generally both departments were poor in this Test match. So credit to England, they did extremely well. Congratulations to Joe Root on becoming the most successful England Test captain of all time. And James Anderson was a genius on the day.
Thank you for that, Aditya. So, as you've referenced before, obviously, it couldn't have been a better day for England after what we've been through in that Lord's Test match. To skittle India for 78, end the day at 120 for no wicket. To me, the jig was almost up anyway at the end of that first day. We saw, obviously, Hamid and Burns solid throughout. Obviously, Hamid was dropped. Ended up making 68. Burns in 61. Obviously, Milan came in and ended up making 70. Do you feel here? I mean, obviously, I don't want to talk England too much because it's just myself here, but I'll maybe skirt over these points a little bit in terms of everyone. But do you feel like maybe England have now found? I think they've definitely found the top 3 for the next 2 tests. Do you think they have found the top 3 for these 2 tests, irrespective of what happens, Sayan? Will this top 3 be the top 3 for the Ashes?
This very well might be the top 3 because if you go back to the first stream that we did right before the first test, I had said that Hasib Hamid is quite the player, right? Because I had seen that county or practice match. Sorry. So the thing is, why he couldn't perform in the previous match was because he was dropped down to number 3, right? If I'm not wrong. And then the thing is, with certain players, it's that if you're opening, it's there in the mind that you'll go in and you'll start playing. And if you're staying in and if you're dropped down to maybe number 3 or number 5, then you have to think a lot. You're looking at other batsmen playing before you, right? So I think that's what played on his mind in the last match, because he's a class player, let's be honest. And Rory Burns might be a bit inconsistent, but when he gets the runs, he gets those big runs, right? And even the 69 or something that he got, it was quite crucial at that stage.
661, I think.
Yeah.
It was,
David Malan, I still don't know if he will quite succeed in Australia against Cummins, Hazelwood, and others. But the top 2 of England is fixed for Ashes.
Krishna, obviously, we saw Hasib Ahmed make runs in India 4 years ago. I think Virat Kohli was rating quite highly, actually. Performances, scored 100. Was it in Mumbai? He scored 100, from memory. But he also performed very well as a young, raw 19-year-old. Obviously, had a very difficult time of it in the years ensued, but he's back now. I completely agree with Sai in terms of I've never understood this notion that people think people can bat at 3, can open the batting. It's a completely different position. Forget the number. And I think Sai's very right when he says the mindset is totally different. I think if you're as opening batsman, if I spoke of the years opening batsman, I'm playing various teams, but I know you're 7, 8 wickets down. You're already switched on to batting. You think about batting. Number 3, I don't think it's necessarily the same thing. We saw with Jonathan Trott when he came back after his problems in Australia. He came back 2015 as an opener. It just didn't work out. It's a completely different spot. But Krishna, I mean, do you think that, like Sayan said, do you agree with that? Do you think maybe one of the reasons why we didn't see him completely switched on at Lords, maybe obviously a lot of pressure's on him. It's his first test back after a long time. He's gone through a lot. But do you think that move down to 3, where he's not naturally a number 3, is that the reasons maybe why we didn't see the best of him in that test match? And do you think that he is here to stay now? Do you think he can keep Sibley out of the team long term? Or Zach Crawley?
Okay, so first question, is Hamid, why didn't Hamid perform last test match? Why did he do well in this test match? I think it's just a matter of, well, for one, you said, he's coming back after a while, a little bit of pressures on him and stuff. But I mean, also to add to that, when you look at the situations in which he had to bat, right? The last test match, it was not so easy, I would say, for him to, it was not as easy as it was for him in this test match, because you didn't have much of a target to trail, right, or to take lead of in the first innings. So it was easy. He could just take his time, sit back, play. There was no real pressure on him in that way, right? But I think in the first game you had, this India had put up about 360 odd or something, right? So there was a little bit of that scoreboard pressure was there, and you had, of course, him coming back and all that. Him batting at, I don't know about him batting at 3 being the problem. I wouldn't completely agree with the fact that it was him batting at 3 that was a problem. I don't really know. I mean, I wouldn't agree to it, but I wouldn't disagree to it either. Like, I just really don't know if that is the issue. When it comes to whether Hasib Hamid could be in England's long-term solution, I think it's just a matter of finding out. I mean, he's had a good start. He's had a good reputation, kind of coming through. He had runs in the 100. He had runs in India when he came in 2017 or 16 or
16,
right?
17 series, yeah.
2016, yeah, he came. So I think Hasib Hamid, obviously, he's looking very good. He's looking in touch. And I think if he, it's only up to him. If he wants to be England's long-term solution, then it's up to him. Really, it is. It's just up to him.
Anurag, yeah, do you want to go next? What's your thoughts on England's top 3?
Yeah, so regarding the Hasib Hamid topic, so it was a bizarre strategy of giving the new ball to Ishan Sharma. If I remember, in the first spell, the guy was literally limping to the crease and was not in his full run-up. So he was literally dishing out those half volleys for Hasib Hamid to cut. So that is where I think he got his confidence back when you compare it with the Lord's Test match. So if you ask me if he's a long-term solution, no. I might wait for 2 or 3 more tests and then then conclude if he's fit, if he's good for the Australian attack. But for now, I think Burns will stay, and probably Malan could stay at 1 down as well. But as for Hasib Hamid, I might still wait for 2 to 3 tests.
Thank you, Anurag. Aditya, I'm going to come to you. I want to talk about Ollie Robinson, I mentioned before. Obviously, England have gone through, they've got a lot of fastballs on the sidelines. Ollie Stone, Markle was injured, Chris Woakes was injured. Obviously, Stu Broad's injured. They've got, they're hanging on to a 39-year-old in Jimmy Anderson. That's the reality. The guy just turned 39 years old. We still need to perform, don't we? Test and test out. But the one shining light in terms of the bowling, Sam Curran, another one who's flopped badly. I mean, averaging 50 with the balls since the start of 2020. It's just been awful for him. But Ollie Robinson has shown, despite what happened to him, that awful incident, obviously with the Twitter and everything, that he's really got. I think he's got it between the ears anyway. I think he's a strong character. But do you think, in terms of performances, do you think England have found one to keep for the long term there? He's just turned 27, I believe, now as well. What is your thoughts on Ollie Robinson and what you've seen so far in these 3 Test matches?
Yeah, definitely. He looks like an all conditions bowler to me, and with time he's only going to get better. I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but there seems to be like a Josh Hazelwood sort of element to his bowling, and he looks like the sort of bowler who can sort of land the ball in that channel just day in and day out, and he is a formidable opponent to deal with. Ollie Robinson is going to be huge, and he's also handy with the bat. So
Yes.
that makes him the perfect package, really. And I think England would do well to manage Ollie Robinson well.
He's got a 40, didn't he? 40 odd in that first Test against New Zealand before he was capped.
Yes.
He's banned.
Yeah.
I mean, a 40. He's actually been quite handy with the ball for Sussex as well. So with the bat for Sussex. Sayan, you raise your hand. I mean, do you feel that Ollie Robinson needs to maybe add half a yard of pace? I know it's a cliche, but maybe to trouble batsmen on flatter decks. If he goes to Australia, obviously he's got the height, so I hope he can get keep it. Obviously, like Josh Hazelwood, be able to get good, consistent bounce. But do you think maybe he needs to get to around the 84, 85, 86 miles an hour more consistently, rather than the early 80s, to kind of break through from a good bowler to a very, very good bowler?
But the problem is, if he gets to that speed, he shouldn't, cut down on accuracy to for more speed, right? And also the thing about Ollie Robinson is, I don't know if you guys know about this or not, he studies every batsman of the opposition team the day before he plays, right? He had said this after the New Zealand Test, because in the New Zealand Test series, he got Kane Williamson, I think, twice or thrice. And after that, on Sky Sports, he said that he studies every batsman, using video analysts and stuff like that. And he's also...
I think he said that before the Test series even started, from memory. He actually commented on this before it started.
Yeah.
To get the...
He actually said how he will get Kane Williamson
Yes,
out.
yeah.
And then he did that exact same thing. So I feel he can be a massive, bowler for England in the next decade or so. He thinks a lot. Also, before, I think it was a second test in the New Zealand series where Williamson was kind of defending a lot, and then he just nips one back in, he defends, and then nips one back out. And I feel he's a great asset for the England team now.
I actually think that he was the reason that this test went nowhere near the wire, because I think he has the ability to take it away. But he brought into Pujara, and Pujara was completely flummoxed, padding up, and he didn't add to his score, and that was obviously a third wicket on that fourth morning, wasn't it, Pujara? And then that opened the gate, because I think England have always known. I'll get to that a bit later when we talk about team composition for India, but the reality is you're batting 4 number 10s from 8 to 11. I think it's fair to say. You could argue that. And I think England knew that new cherry, because remember that third evening, Root wanted to take the new ball, didn't he? He was bowling, and then he asked the umpires, they said, listen, you can't take a new ball, it's too dark. So what happened was, Ollie Robinson and Anderson get good night's kip, fresh legs, rather than take a new ball at 5 o'clock in the evening, 5:30. They come in rearing to go, fourth morning, bang, 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 fresh to daisy, and with a new cherry, and that was it. And I think they knew they can get one of Pujara Kohli out early. That opens the floodgates, because Rahane is not in good form. They're not scared of Pants on these wickets in these conditions. And then all of a sudden, okay, Jadeja can't play by himself. He needs to back up, and you've got 4 number 10s. That's what do you know what I mean? So I think that really helps England with, I think, that test match. But Krishna, I'll go to you quickly now, Anurag. Do you want to quickly maybe add any points potentially on Ollie Robinson and your opinion on him?
No, I think everything has been covered.
Anurag, anything?
I'm good, Shay, I think.
Good, okay. Sorry, Mr. Play. Krishna, I'll come back to you. I want to go discuss, I know we touched a little bit, but India's batting woes. The middle order looks very brittle, as mentioned before, the average is. Rahane seems to, I'm not sure he's the golden child or what his background is, but he seems to be very much in favour of the selectors consistently. I know what he did last year. They took over the captaincy. But let's be honest here. Is this guy really cut out for it long term? I think he's turned 33 now, Rahane. And you've got Surya Kumar Yadav, you've got Shreyas Iyer who's come out from injury. Are his days
Not
numbered?
Vihari.
Who, sorry?
Vihari.
And Bahar, yeah, I mean, maybe, Sean McGill's still young, Shaw's still young, they can come back in, move, things around. There's a lot of options there. Is Rahane, do you feel, Krishna, on borrowed time? Also, want to discuss as well about your opinion on Pujara. Has that 91 saved him for at least next 2 tests, or is he also still on borrowed time?
Okay, first question, Rahane. So this is a very tough question to answer, really, because Rahane is that cricketer who's so loved by not just the management but by pretty much all of India. Because he's a very disciplined guy. He's a very hardworking guy. He's a very simple human being, and he's a man of great humility and great character. And he showed that in the Australia series. So the problem is, I think, yes, we really do love Rahane so much, and he is in favor with the selection and even with the public as well, right? So I mean, that seems to work in his favor, but the reality is, if you look at his numbers over the past, say, 3-4 years, they're not amazing, but there are some points in his favor. Like, for example, he's got one of the highest averages for the number 5 batsman in the past, like, say, 6 or 7 years. But of course, you're taking a lot of his runs he scored pre 2018 into when you look at that particular statistic, because before 2018 he was absolutely phenomenal. He got runs in South Africa, he was getting runs in England, he was getting runs in Australia, he was getting runs pretty much everywhere, except India, right? And then he had this one series in Sri Lanka, in India, if I'm not wrong, in 2017, where he got 17 runs in 5 innings, which was just pathetic, like, against also a pretty lackluster Sri Lankan bowling lineup. For him to get 17 runs in 5 innings at home, just didn't. And I think that's when we start. I think the alarm was the alarm was sounded. I don't know if that's correct English, but the alarm was rung on Rahane, about Rahane's existence in the Indian team. But of course, he is the vice captain of the Indian team. How can you drop the vice captain, right? There's always this sort of rhetoric that exists. But if you look at, my personal opinion on Rahane, I definitely do feel it's not necessarily time to axe him out of the side and sort of force him to retire. I'm not saying that at all. I think there is some fight and character left in Rahane, but I think he needs to find that. And for him to find that, we need to place him out of the side for a while, right? Probably good solution for him would be to get some runs in the domestic competitions in India, maybe get some runs with the India A side, right? When they tour abroad as well, things like that. I would say if Rahane can do that and sort of justify his place in the team through runs there, then I think it makes sense. Another problem I see with Rahane especially is the expectation. India has this expectation that India always wanted Rahane to be the circuit breaker, which I mentioned before. They wanted Rahane to be that VVS Lakshman type player who can come and solidify things, who can form partnerships with the rest of the players, can form partnerships with the tailenders also, right? And if you're 100 for 5, can you take us to 200 for 5? Can you take us to 200 for 6? Whatever, something like that, right? They want Rahane to be that player, and they still want and think Rahane to be that player, right? And that is the issue, is he's not been that player for a very long time. He's not. We're expecting that of him, and I think it's a little bit delusional for us to think that he can become that player, because we've given him such a long time to do it, right? I think the one instance, at least in recent memory, that comes to mind where he's actually done that is the 112 in Melbourne, right? But there's no other such innings that he's played in the past maybe 4 or 5 years that I can name as this is a Rahane innings, right? The only other innings that comes to mind in his entire career is that 100 at Lords, right? So really, Rahane has not, even though he's so talented and he has an amazing character, an amazing amount of love and support, he just hasn't delivered, and we have to acknowledge that. We have to accept that as Indians. And also, if you look at the players that are coming through, Vihari, Surya Kumar Yadav, Shreyas Iyer, like you mentioned. You have guys like even KS Bharat, Abhimanyu Ishwaran also waiting in the wings. Priyank Panchal also is a great domestic player, right? You have guys like that who, India is just filled with a sea of batsmen who's ready, who are ready to take that number 5 spot, right? And I would say that, guys like Vihari, at least maybe Vihari at right now is probably better accustomed to playing that circuit breaker role than Rahane is right now. I don't know if Vihari can actually perform that for India. I mean, we'll only know by trying him out. But definitely at the moment, it seems like Vihari can do that, right? And what was your second question again? Your second question?
Pujara as well, obviously. Pujara.
Pujara.
They both went in, didn't they, with question marks over the heads.
Yeah. So Pujara, when it comes to Pujara, right? You're asking whether the 91 saved him. I think I would say yes, the 91 has saved him, but for a very brief amount of time. It has saved him maybe for the next 2 tests at best, right? Because if he continues to sort of have that sort of negative intent of, okay, I'm just gonna try and all I'm focusing on is trying to survive Anderson and Robinson, and I'm not gonna look to score runs. I'm not gonna look to find singles, find gaps, right? Then it's the same. You haven't solved anything. It's just the same Pujara that we've been used to for the past 3 years, who's not shown any intent, who's not shown sort of grit, right? He showed grit in that one test match. I would say the Sydney test, not the Sydney test match, the Melbourne, the Adelaide test match, right? The Gabba.
Cummins was peppering him. That one.
Yeah, the Gabba one. Sorry, Gabba. I'm sorry. The Gabba test match.
He took about 8 blows on his body, didn't he? Cummins was peppering him that day. I remember.
Yeah, but that situation was perfect for Pujara because he knew that, okay, I have to survive this, and I have a guy in punt at the other end who can score runs there, right? At least the objective was to secure a draw and then go for the win, right? At least that was sort of the objective at the Gabba, right? So that was very clear. But here, in England, you're playing the first innings, right? So you don't have the control over whether you can go for the win or you're going for the draw. Right, you're playing the first innings, so you have to look to score runs, but you have to also find an adequate pace to do that. And Pujara is very confused about how to do that, right? At least he was more sure in the past. He was more confident in the past about doing that. But now it looks like he doesn't know whether to be positive, whether to be defensive, whether to be aggressive. He has no idea. It looks like he's not clear on that. So, but at least in this innings that he got, the 91 run innings, it looked like he had some intent. Okay, like I want to score some runs because the team needs runs. And the team needs runs from me. He sort of understood that, so he played accordingly, right? But now that he's got the 91, will he play with the same defensive mindset? Will he take it a little will he show a little bit of complacency? That is the problem. And if he does show complacency, then forget about playing for India long term. I think that's my take on Pujara.
Aside before Anurag, but maybe the complacency in the camp as a reason why maybe you've had these capitulations over the last year or so. Is there maybe the fact that you've also lacked that kind of that ruthlessness off the pitch as well has led to the fact of Rahane and Pujara. You've persevered with these guys to come good, to keep coming good. But I said before, 33 years old, the fact you've got so many options there available. Is this simply a stay of execution, and particularly Rahane's case? I mean, what's your take, really, Anurag, on Rahane Pujara? How long do you continue to persevere with these guys?
I think Krishna almost covered all his points, but there lies this question on how can you drop a vice captain in the Indian context? I mean, when was the last time a vice captain was dropped in order to accommodate a youngster? So that will be the question everyone has to answer. Because if you try to get in a youngster at this point of a series where the series is at 1-1, and if the guy does not perform, that is going to affect his morale. If the youngster is actually blooded at the start of the series, is given some time to settle, a few innings here and there, and that is when he's going to become a hero. It's not something where he can just barge in, replace a senior batsman, try to play a great innings and then make a name. I think that is not going to be possible. So probably seniors like Pujara and Rahane, we'll have to see until the end of the series and then take some tough calls, whether the youngsters have to come in or we'll have to persist with seniors like this for foreign tours. Because in home conditions, definitely these youngsters going to dominate the other bowlers. I mean, dominate the opposition bowlers. But the real character comes out when you blood these guys really young and really early stage of the series. That is when I think it will be really effective.
Yeah, because most if you look at actually the top 6 for India, top 7 barring Pants, they're all kind of north of 30. I think Carroll's 29. But maybe the session planning needs to start a little bit in earnest. But I'm going to move on from Pujara and Rahane. I'm going to go to Sayan actually before I go to Aditya, because I want to talk about Kohli a bit as well. So I want to speak to you about this, Sayan. And that's your man, Rishabh Pant. Obviously, he's been performing quite poorly, averaging 17.4 in the 3 tests so far. He's kept pretty well, from what I've seen, the match I have seen, but he doesn't seem anywhere near the kind of precocious talent that we saw, swashbuckling, knocks that we saw in Australia, and then obviously at home against England. He's unsusceptible to the moving ball, like a lot of Indian players do when they come over here. It's obviously difficult to negate. What is your take on Rishabh Pant? Is it a case of moving him up and down the order, maybe find a better spot for him, just tell him to apply his game more? Is there, what they say as well, is Rishabh Pant just Rishabh Pant? This is what we've got to deal with. He is who he is. There is no kind of turning him to a Pujara. Do you know what I mean? Do we have to simply accept that Rishabh Pant will play always this one way? Or is there a plan B to his game as well, like he maybe move into?
So answering the first part of your question, so there's another guy who's batting pretty well down the order, and it's Ravindra Jadeja, right? So what India can do is bring Jadeja up and push Pant down to 7, right? Because let's be honest, Rishabh Pant will be Rishabh Pant. He will come and he'll try to slog some of the balls over cover or over cow corner, right? He will do that. You cannot stop him. You cannot turn him into a Pujara right now, or even a Rahane for that matter. So what you can do is you can bring in Jadeja, who's having pretty good control over the ball. I think his fall shot percentage is the lowest in this series amongst all Indian batters. And talking about Rishabh Pant, he has to take some responsibility now, because let's be honest, our middle order isn't performing well at all. Rahane, Kohli, Pujara has been garbage all throughout the series. So Pant has to take up that responsibility, seeing that the 3-4-5 is not performing. So he has to kind of, pitch in at least 40 to 50 runs, maybe in an innings. And if the team management feels that he cannot do that, he will, kind of give you the 20 ball, 30 maybe, something like that. Then you have to bring him down. You have to make him bat with the tail enders when he can just, go Pollocks and smash. So, yeah, that's the thing.
Does anyone else want to kind of chip in about Pants before we move on to your skipper? Krishna?
So actually, to just add to Sayan's point about Pant at 7 and maybe bringing Jadeja up the order, if you look at the I think the Australia series in 2018, Pant was batting at 7, and it was of course the way he was batting to especially against Nathan Lyon was a huge point of criticism, saying that why is Pant going after Lyon in such a haphazard manner, in such an ugly manner, right? That was one of the huge points of criticism in that 2018 series, and he was batting at 7. But the point, a lot of people would counter that argument, saying at least Pant is giving you 30 runs in an innings. At least he's giving you 30 runs in an innings, and that was actually a fair point, because you weren't getting runs from middle order. You were getting runs, at times from Pujara. You were getting runs at times from, from besides Pujara. Pujara was great in that series. Besides Pujara, you weren't getting that many runs, right? And Kohli got the 100, the odd 100 in that series, right? But Pant was giving you at least 30 runs. And it also, to add to that, you had a weak Australian batting lineup who you were facing. So maybe that point of 30 runs is not that valid, but at least he was giving you 30 runs. But in this series, he's batting at 6. And at 6, you need to get 50, 60 odd, right? You need to get that. And he's not even getting your 30 also at this point. So is it fair for us to bring Pant down to 7, then maybe see if he's doing well at 7 and then try and get him back at 6? Maybe it might work.
Fair enough. The elephant in the room, which obviously we can't not go to the stream without discussing, is obviously Mr. Virat Kohli, your captain. I think it's almost 2 years now since he's last scored a century, Test century for India. I've actually got stats in front of me here. So he played 12 tests in 2016, averaging 60.42. 2017, 10 tests, 75 points. So same 6.24. 2018, 13 tests, averaging 54.34. 2019, 8 tests, averaging 63.29. Then a big slip off. Only 3 tests in 2020, averaging 40.99. Sorry, apology, I got the wrong stats in the last 2. He's averaging 68 in 2019, 3 tests in 2020, averaging 90.33, massive drop down, and this year's averaging 27.15. Obviously includes the home series against England. So a huge drop from the 60s into 19, that from 2 years ago. His captaincy seems a bit off as well. Tactical at times seems a bit wayward, I would say. His choices at times. I feel like maybe the siege mentality he's creating now, especially away from home, seems to be backfiring a little bit. We've obviously discussed Virat Kohli immensely last week with Rajiv. I don't want to go down that road again. I was looking, but we'll leave that to Rajiv for next time, mate. What happens? Obviously, he's turning 33 in a couple of months' time. He's obviously been flopping with the bat for almost 2 years. Virat Kohli is an incredible player. Will absolutely, without go down one of the legends of the game. But have we seen the best Aditya of Virat Kohli in a white Indian shirt? Or is there potential to maybe remove from the captaincy to let him to regain his best form?
Not at all. To be honest, up until this series, I don't think Kohli has really been batting badly. For example, his return to Test match cricket post lockdown was in Adelaide, I think. In that first Test against Australia, and I thought that 72 he made there was sublime. He was fantastic before he had that reporter run out, and I did think that he was on his way to making a big 100. That didn't happen. He did play the rest of the series fine. The series against England in India, again, I thought that was he played quite well on rank turners, which were generally not conducive to stroke play. And I think apart from Rohit Sharma and Rishabh Pant, I don't know if anyone else got 100. Kohli got a couple of 50s there. But then again, I don't know if conditions were great for batting. And in this series, what I'm sensing from Kohli is that there's this I word that really irritates me, and it's called intent. And he keeps using one after the other in every single media interaction. And I find it so annoying because he's putting pressure on himself as well as the rest of the team to score at a certain pace. And if you look at dismissals across the board for India, and particularly for Kohli, look at the number of times he's nicked off to the slips or to the keeper. He left so many more balls in 2018 when he had that philosophy of checking the ego at the door. But he simply hasn't done that this tour because of his desire to dominate. But that's not the way you go about scoring runs in England. Ultimately, runs are currency, and it doesn't matter whether you've got 100 of 120 balls or 100 of 200 balls or 100 of 250 balls. It doesn't matter. You need to be there to score that 100. And Kohli isn't doing that at the moment. And there's also something seems to be wrong with his technique, because if you look at footage from the 2018 tour versus this one, in the 2018 tour, he still had that open stance that he tends to have normally. Where he's taking that 2-leg guard. Whereas here his hips seem to be a bit closed. And I don't know what the reason for that change is, because that old stance seemed to be working perfectly fine. So I do think that that's there, and there is the additional pressure of that I think the entire batting lineup has of fielding just 6 specialist batsmen. That pressure is playing on everyone, because I think Rohit and Rahul are good enough to be in a 6-batter lineup. Kohli is good enough to be in a 6-batter lineup. But I don't know if Pujara and Rahane are good enough to be in a 6-batter lineup. They'd be better players if there were 7 specialist batsmen and number 8 was an all-rounder. Because they may have the skill to be able to bat long, but can they handle the pressure of it? which also brings me to Ajinkya Rahane at number 5. Ajinkya Rahane batted better when there were 7 specialist batters, and India had a 4 polar attack. And there seems, the question with Ajinkya Rahane, it's a massive conundrum because he's got a great tactical head, which we know that Kohli appreciates as well, and we saw that in Australia. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is: has Ajinkya Rahane's game grown over the years from 2014 onwards? Can we say confidently that Ajinkya Rahane in 2021 is a better batsman than he was in 2014 or 2017 or 2018? In my mind, the answer to that is no. He hasn't, because the limitations that existed in his game in 2014 continue to haunt him terribly. And sure, he's a hardworking player, but has that, has he been able to rectify those mistakes? I don't think so. He hasn't. And at some point when that tough call is taken, I don't think it should be a question on Ajinkya Rahane's ability, but it is a question on whether Ajinkya Rahane has been able to grow as a player, which I don't think he has, because you can see a definite growth. Virat Kohli, the batsman in 2014, was better than Virat Kohli, the batsman in 2011. Kohli was a better batsman in 2016 than he was in 14. Kohli was a better batsman in 18 than he was in 16. But we can never say that we've seen a definite growth in Ajinkya Rahane's batting, or for that matter, in Cheteshwar Pujara's batting. Because Cheteshwar Pujara, who is the natural successor to Rahul Dravid, has a more limited range in batting. And eventually he's going to be found out. But that comparison with Rahul Dravid is going to be never ending. But if you look at Rahul Dravid's game, he had a far more well-rounded game against spin, against space, and there was a degree of adaptability to his batting that Cheteshwar Pujara simply doesn't have. So that's where there's additional pressure on Virat Kohli, on K. Rahul and Rohit Sharma to perform. And, unfortunately, questions have to be asked of the two veterans, Pujara and Rahane. But it's mainly because we need to see growth from them. If Ajinkya Rahane has been struggling historically with rotating strike against spin, that was a problem he had in 2014, which is why Dhoni insisted that he shouldn't be in the ODI side, particularly in subcontinental conditions. Has that changed? No, it hasn't, because in the last Test series, he was struggling with the same issues.
No, very good points. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, Anurag, let's move to you. Obviously, Aditya's gone to depth about Rahane, and obviously, maybe that's obviously his form's impacting. Kohli, for me, is the kind of guy who will go to the death for his players, for his teammates. But maybe obviously behind closed doors, he is very worried about the consistency and the form of Rahane in particular. Obviously, now that at least Rajara's scored 19, he's always back in form. But at the Indian cricket team, the Test team, better served with having someone else take up the captaincy to allow Kohli to regain form with the bat and focus purely on his batting? Or do you feel he can continue to juggle both? I mean, the good thing is about India compared to England, you have options there. You can take the captaincy armband. You have Rahane. You have Rohit Sharma, arguably. You have K. You have these guys who could slot in as the next Test captain, where I say England don't really have that. But what would you do, Anurag, in this case?
I think the so-called cricket pundits on Twitter have already started this debate where to hand the captaincy over to Rohit Sharma just because of his IPL wins or whatever. But yeah, I disagree, because the way Kohli can handle a team, I mean, the way he can put up a straight face or a very challenging stature in front of the media and trying to defend his team or his players, I think he's been brilliant over the years. And there's no way I'd give up. I mean, there's no way he'll give up his captaincy just to concentrate on batting. I mean, batting comes naturally to him. There's no way a thing called captaincy is going to burden him. I think it's just that there is, and I mean, there's almost 2 years without a century, and it's all outside talk, and it's nothing going on in his mind. He's clear. He's pretty sure the century is going to come in the near future, and better times for Indian cricket.
Fair enough. Anurag's brilliant. He's opposite of me. No words are wasted. Straight to the point. No, just kidding. Anyway, Krishna. I mean, Virat Kohli to me seems like on the likes of like Tendulkar and Dhoni, star power and what he represents is actually probably an important part of the debate around his captaincy. I don't think it's a simple case of remove Kohli as captain. I think there's a wider context to this and what that would actually indicate for a country as a whole. Um, is it so simple? Is it a case of Virat Kohli leaves when he wants to leave, or can he be persuaded to leave on for the right terms for the team? I suppose just for him, because is it better for the Indian cricket team? As I said before, if you have Rohit Sharma, just argument's sake, Anurag. Just I'm not saying Rohit. I'm not on Twitter. I didn't even know that was going on, but Rohit Sharma or a Carroll as captain, but you have Virat Kohli performing how he was 3-4 years ago. Is that more beneficial to the team overall, or is it a case of anyone who takes over as captain with Kohli still on the side? It might be too much of a stone in the shoe to run a team with Kohli there still. I'm interested in your thoughts, Krishna, and I'm into Sayan.
See, here's the thing, right? With especially with India right now, at least we don't really at least when you look at the transition from Dhoni to Kohli, it was very smooth, and I think that's one of the things that really helped Kohli become India's most successful Test captain. When it comes to Test cricket, Kohli is unmatched when it comes to Indian Test cricket. As a captain, Kohli has been a phenomenal Test captain. Like, he's just been amazing. The amount of transformation he's brought in to Indian Test cricket, the fact that we've been able to stay at number one for this long amount of time, even Dhoni wasn't able to do it, right? And the culture of growing fast bowlers, etc. That was amazing. When it comes to right now transitioning from Kohli, maybe to a Rohit or a KL Rahul, my only issue with that is there's no real grooming of anybody who's there to take his place. Like, at least with Dhoni, the Kohli was being groomed. With respect to Dhoni, when Dhoni got the captaincy, it was Kumble who was there, but Kumble had groomed Dhoni, and that's why Kumble was able to retire so suddenly and not have it affect the team as much. Right, Dhoni was just able to take captaincy like a fish to water, right? And I don't see that with the current Indian setup. As I don't see somebody who's there who's ready. Like, if you say after this England series, you know what, Kohli says, I'm giving up the captaincy, and I'm just going to be a batsman from now on, right? I don't see anybody who's there in the current group of Test cricketers who's ready to take it on besides Ajinkya Rahane. But even Ajinkya Rahane at this point is a question mark, right? Whether Ajinkya Rahane stays in the Indian team as a batsman, as a captain, we have no idea, right? We have thoughts, we have ideas, we have opinions, but there's no real concrete plan in place, right? So I would say, like, if Virat Kohli were to give up the captaincy right now, it wouldn't make sense at all. But maybe 3-4 years down the line, would it make sense? Probably. Would Virat Kohli relinquish the captaincy himself, or would he have to be forced out of it, or will the management make him step down? I think it's very clear that Virat Kohli will give up the captaincy on his terms, because the Indian board and the BCCI and the team management is such that Virat Kohli is the most powerful man in Indian cricket. It's just a fact. He is the most powerful man in Indian cricket. BCCI is not. They don't have as much of a say when it comes to this, because Indian cricket has become sort of a cult of personality. I would, in my opinion. So I would say
I just can't. Sorry, just want to say one thing before we carry on. I can't visualize the words Virat Kohli sacked. I can't see that anywhere. I can't visualize that. I could see Joe Root. I could see, any captain in world cricket sacked. I just can't see the words. It's almost like Sachin Tendulkar sacked. I just feel that position is so massive for the cricketing powerhouse. I mean, but sorry, Krishna, it's just, you know what I mean? I just wanted to say that.
I think you covered it. Like, the BCCI at this point is essentially just, I mean, dare I say it? I'll be completely honest. They're just puppets at the hand of the players and the management. It really is, because they don't really have much of a say. Any selector who doesn't select certain players is questioned. Any commentator that that points a finger at certain players is removed, is whatever lambasted on Twitter and various other forums and various platforms. So I think it's fair to say that there is a cult of personality, and the fact that you can't imagine Virat Kohli sacked. I don't think. Yeah, you're completely right. I cannot imagine. I cannot even envision. Seeing a Virat Kohli steps down or Virat Kohli sacked. It just doesn't seem plausible at any point.
Simon, are we overreacting here? People overreacting regarding Virat Kohli? Is it a case of he scores 100 or maybe a double ton as Aditya has been envisioning and dreaming about for so long now? Maybe he goes
Triple.
of course, yeah. How can I forget a triple 100? Is in fact he goes to the Oval, he scores a ton, everyone forgets about it, and we're all waxing lyrical about Virat Kohli again, the greatest batsman ever. What are you saying, Simon?
I mean, realistically, he's not scoring a ton in the next two tests. Leaving that aside, his captaincy is not in question right now because we did win a series before this also at home, right? What is in question?
When's India's next test assignment?
South Africa at home. No, sorry, it's New Zealand
South
at
Africa
home
in
December.
And then South Africa in South Africa.
Yeah.
South Africa are touring India this year, Aditya.
No, we are
touring India is going to South Africa.
I know India's going to South Africa, but that's the next test series for you guys.
Yeah, no. The next one is New Zealand is touring us.
When's that? After the World Cup?
Yeah, November, December,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay. Well, three tests.
Two, I guess.
Okay.
So now the question is Virat Kohli, the batsman, right? Because he hasn't been scoring those big numbers that he's supposed to be scoring, like what a Joe Root or a Williamson has been scoring. I feel the problem is he kind of is going back to his 2014 days, where if you see he's kind of having that trigger movement where he moves back towards the off stump, and that kind of doesn't give him a clear solution of where his off stump clearly is. So he's kind of nicking it off at the fifth or sixth stump line because he's kind of thinking that his off stump is right there. So even if he kind of touches the ball, it will go towards the cover, right? And that's clearly not what's happening. And Jimmy Anderson is kind of again doing the same thing where the ball's going outside from moving from the fourth stump to the fifth stump, and then he's just nicking it off right there. So I think that is what one of the problems. And the second problem is his ego, because in the first or the second test, he sledged Anderson, right? Chirp, old age makes you something like that. And then I feel that's kind of backfiring right now. That kind of backfired in this test because he kind of comes in with a mindset that I have to dominate this bowler rather than that I can see him off in the first over, right? In the first overs, when he was facing Anderson, he was trying to play those cover drives. Some of those connected and beautifully went for fours, but the ones that didn't connect looked ugly and it was being nicked behind all the time.
Is he spending too much time focusing on things that the beefing and the fighting and all this stuff not say off the pitch necessarily, but outside of his batting? Is it maybe just he needs to kind of cool it? You think maybe?
The thing is with Virat Kohli, he tries to prove himself right every time, right? So like it's like he has made a commitment and he cannot take it back. So he has said that he has tried to dominate Anderson the whole test series, but it's clearly not that, because I feel Anderson has taken him down 5 or 6 times already, and I feel he's talking the talk, but he's not walking the walk. That's what's happening.
Fair enough. Okay. I want to go to the. Actually, I won't discuss England's middle order. We can maybe get into team selection. So, Aditya and Anurag, I'll speak to you about England's team selection, what you do as England selectors for the fourth test. And then Krishna and Sayan, I'll speak to you about the India side before we wrap up with predictions. So, if we just start with England. For me, Aditya, England still have, irrespective of the win, obviously it's a great win, they've got massive middle order issues. I've been on air with you guys. I told you the top 6 is horrific. I'm not saying I still think it's a lot of questions to be asked. One swallow does not a summer make, right? So you can't just judge it on this. I still think it's a very brittle top 6. I think the fact that Bairstow, Butler, and Ali all failed is important. Let's just say Joe Root gets a duck in the next innings, right? What happens then to the rest of that batting order, right? Butler, we know, is out next 2 tests. He's on paternity leave. Who are you going to bring in for Josh Butler, first of all? And is any of the changes you would make to the side, Aditya, for the fourth test?
So the speculation is that Besto will take gloves.
That's going to happen. That's going to happen, yeah. Billings has been called up as cover.
Ollie Pope is going to come in.
Right. Not Dan Lawrence. You won't pick Dan Lawrence.
Probably not. Probably go with Ollie Pope. But my concern is not so much with the batting as it is with the bowling, because I think I'd pick the extra spinner for the Oval, and it would be wise for Joe to probably think of Jack Leach as an option there.
Ahead
because
of who?
That to me can be the game changer. Sam Curran maybe.
So you pick Leach for Curran, and you bring in Pope for Butler.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe Pope back to 6. So Pope at 5, Bairstow at 6, and then Moeen Ali at 7, and then we stick
Robinson
with Jimmy
at
Anderson.
8.
Robinson at 8 and Jimmy. Would you bring Mark Wood back? Because you got Craig. He might be fit for this fourth test. Craig Overton obviously took 6 wickets and he held some decent slip catches as well. He looked quite handy, Craig Overton, in return. So you stick with Overton. Do you persist with Jimmy Anderson?
Yes, absolutely.
4th test in a row, 39 years old. You don't keep him, maybe rest him for 1 test?
This is the opportunity for England to take the advantage over India, because it's going to be very difficult for India to bounce back in that last test match. So I think if this test match is even more important than the last test match.
I agree. I agree with that.
If England need to drive home an advantage, this is it, and I don't think they can do it without Jimmy Anderson.
Because they messed up, obviously. Remember the India series in India, where they took the advantage and then he sent everyone bloody home, didn't they? Everyone went home because they were pre-planned. Anurag, what's your thoughts on what Eddie's just said about England's team going into the 4th test up on Thursday?
I think not just for the 4th or the 5th test, I think England should look for a more permanent solution for the middle order. Because if you look at Josh Butler's numbers, I've always said they are not groundbreaking. It's not fit for a batsman who has just 2 centuries to play in that middle order. Probably hand over the gloves to Bairstow, get a specialist batsman in. So just like what Aditya said, Bairstow is going to take the gloves. He's going to keep. Then there's Ollie Pope who's going to be slotted in the middle order. And then Moeen Ali will just pick himself. I mean, the England management is not looking for any centuries or half centuries from Moeen Ali. He just has to turn up to the match. He has to bowl few overs of spin, smack a few boundaries here and there. And I think that'll justify his role in the middle order.
Do you think potentially, if Johnny Bairstow performs well in this test series, we may have seen the end of Josh Butler as a test cricketer? Is it potentially a position where you said Josh Butler, your mate, you're a white ball specialist going forward? He's 31 now, still not old by any stretch of imagination, but he's laboured, hasn't he, the last 3 years as keeper? It's always been up and down with him. Is it time for England maybe to move on and say, go and be the best white ball player you can be? You've still got plenty of years to go. Or is still opportunity and room for him to grow as a test cricketer?
Yes, like you said, he's a legend in white ball cricket, but when it comes to the red ball, he's never cemented his place. So if Bairstow is going to really perform in the next 2 tests, he's going to fly to Australia as your first primary wicket keeper. Then the other talented Ben Foakes, if he's available, he's going to be the reserve one. And 3rd position would then be Josh Butler. So I think his place is really in danger if he's not. I mean, if Bairstow is going to perform tomorrow.
Definitely. You've also got Ben Stokes come back to the side at some point as well, right? Ben Stokes is going to come back in, and he gets into that top 5. Nope. Okay, and then in terms of the bowling, you agree with Aditya. You got Robinson. You stick with Robinson, Overton, and Anderson. You don't bring
the
Mark
pace
Wood
trio, and then Moeen Ali is going to do the spin duties.
Sam Curran stays?
He's going to stay, yes.
Chris Fox, you won't get Chris Fox in for Sam Curran.
Is he test match ready? He just played 1 county, but is he really ready for the international style?
Do worse than
he's played his second 11 game. He played the quarterfinal against Kent, where they got battered. But he's fit. He's declared fit for this test.
Okay, then he's going to give you a really good batting depth and new ball swing as well. So yeah, why not slot him in? So Sam Curran is going to go if Chris Fox is going to be pushed in.
So you stick with 1 spinner in Moeen Ali, and then Root Spalding a little bit of part-time.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So enforced changes for England, obviously, with the maternity leave, etc. India. Now, a lot has been said of Ishant Sharma. Same question I'm going to ask to both of you guys. Have we seen the last Ishant Sharma of the series? Could it be saying farewell to Indian Test cricket? What's the composition of your side? Ashwin has played at one county championship match against Somerset earlier on the season. So he played for Surrey. Took a six for like 3 runs. It was ridiculous. It was turning square in the last 2 days, that match. Ashwin, obviously, a lot's been made about his absence in the first 3 tests. Isn't he eschewing Sayan for this test match coming forward? And who do you drop if Ashwin does come back?
So ideally, my playing 11 would be Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul, Pujara. I would give him one more test. Virat Kohli, Hanuma Vihari, Ravindra Jadeja,
At
Ashwin.
6.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Sorry, Pant is also there, right? So Pant. So
At 6 or 7.
Pant at 7, Jadeja at 6. So that is what I would like. And then my bowlers would be Siraj, Shami, Bumrah.
Ashwin.
Yeah, Bumrah, Ashwin. Yeah, that's it. So Ajinkya goes
Okay.
out. He has to go out.
Fair enough. Krishna?
So I'm a little bullish on. I would probably pick the same team, but I'm a little bullish on Jadeja staying. I don't know if Jadeja should stay in the squad. My only reason being the reason why Jadeja is there in the squad as at number 7 is because he's considered of a solid batsman and a decent enough bowler. But in the previous match, he was forced to bowl 30 overs or 30 odd overs because of India's whatever England just batted so well, so he had to bowl about 30 overs there. My only question is, can you pick up those 20 wickets by playing an extra batsman? Because you already have quite a weak tail. And Ashwin at 8, I don't know if solves that problem because Siraj, Shami, Bumrah is still a weakness, right? I'm still thinking whether bringing in Surya Kumar Yadav over Jadeja makes sense. I don't know. It may not be the smartest option, but I'm really thinking because Surya Kumar Yadav adds a bit of, at least we don't know him in Test cricket, but from what I've heard and what I've seen, he has pretty decent numbers in for list A cricket. And he just adds a bit of energy into that batting in the middle order at number 6, number 7. So I'm just thinking whether Surya Kumar Yadav over Ravindra Jadeja makes more sense. But yes, definitely Vihari has to come in. And the reason why I'm also thinking, maybe it's not. Maybe we don't need Ravindra Jadeja is because Vihari also gives you overs. So do you really need 3 spinners in Jadeja, Vihari, and Ashwin? And can you play the extra batsman in Surya Kumar Yadav is sort of what I'm thinking. But yeah, I'm okay with Ravindra Jadeja staying also.
Can I take?
Yeah, go for it.
So I don't think Surya Kumar Yadav would be able to perform in England because of the swinging conditions and looking at his technique, right? Because he tends to go on the back foot a lot and towards the off stump. So that is one point, and this is the first time I think he'll be playing in England. So there will be a lot of pressure. What we can do is, if we have to remove Jadeja, play Hanuma Vihari at 7, and then get in Mayank Agarwal at 5. Right. That's.
My only issue with that is Mayank Agarwal. See, we tried that with Mayank Agarwal at the Gabba, and it didn't work. Right? I mean, of course, one test match is not a good enough sample size, but Mayank Agarwal is a quintessential opener, right? Or top 3. He's a quintessential top 3 batsman, right? Changing his role to number 5, I don't know. I don't find that. I don't see that as the problem is you want to add some stability to the Indian middle order. Right, that's what you want to do essentially, and playing an opener who's not suited for the middle order doesn't make sense to me, at least. But I guess obviously you can go back and forth about this, for days. So yeah,
Fair enough.
Because I would not like a batsman debuting right now, right?
That's also there, but Surya Kumar also has numbers in list A cricket, is what I'm saying. I mean, of course, England is a different ball game, but at least Surya Kumar Yadav is also coming fresh. He had a reasonably decent season in Sri Lanka also. So, I don't know. I just feel like India needs a bit of energy in that middle order. They just need some new energy in there, just to, sort of. And Surya Kumar has has the shots, he has the game, he has that intent. I know Aditya hates that word, but I'm going to use it. But he has maybe intent is, I won't use the word intent, I'll use the word positive. He has positivity. And he
Positive
has
intent.
freshness. He has
Yes,
a fresh
flair.
approach. A fresh approach.
It's flair.
Yeah, flair. Yeah.
I mean, Anurag and DJ, quickly to wrap up, is there anything you would say, anything else you would add to India's team selection which hasn't been said already? None of you
Yeah,
none of you lot batting for Ashwin, if what I'm hearing.
I said Ashwin.
Yeah, I said Ashwin too. I said I'd go with the same team with the only difference being Jadeja.
But surely, I mean, I don't know. I'd be pissed off if Ashwin's not played already. This is a brilliant bowler, man. I mean, I can't believe. To me, he has to play, man, on Thursday. How can you not play this guy?
Ashwin should be in the team. I think Jadeja is injured.
Definitely.
Definitely needs for rest. I think with an injured knee, he shouldn't rush him back in. But this isn't going to happen. But I'm going to say it anyway. Rest Rahane. Send Rahul down to number 5 because he's done that before. He's familiar with the role, and get Prithvi Shaw to open, and give him the license. Give him the license to blast.
Mate, we don't want 0 for 1, please.
I think
He's not succeeding with that technique.
I thought you were going to say Agarwal, because I was going to say that when Krishna mentioned, Sayan mentioned, I was going to say, you know what, drop Rahul to KL to 5, but why would you change him? It's not broken. Why try and fix it, right? KL's doing really well.
That's what I said. It's not going to happen. But I think if there was a change to be made, that's what I would do.
Then remove Kohli too.
Yeah, Krishna?
See, I think the whole Rahul at 5, Rahul at 6, and Rahul at 4 is such a romanticized idea. Really, we really don't know. We really don't know how Rahul can play in the middle order. It's and we're saying it with such confidence. I love the confidence with which we bring, with which we say, oh, Rahul can play in the middle order. Rahul can play in the middle order. Just because he's done it in the ODIs doesn't mean he's going to do it in the test. It's a completely different approach, a completely different ball game altogether. So this idea of Rahul at 5, Rahul at 4 just makes no sense to me. Like, seriously.
Fair enough. Anurag, do you want anything before we just wrap it up?
Yeah, so Ashwin in for Jadeja and Shardul Thakur to replace Ishant. So at least we can tilt the swing meter to at least 1.5 or so.
Yeah. Ishant Sharma, to me, did none of you agree with what I said before? Can we not have seen the end of Ishant Sharma? He gets dropped from the next 2 tests. Isn't that it for him now?
I think he needs some rest right now.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Predictions. This is hard today, I think, to do the predictions. Krishna, I know you might stay on the sidelines this one. Sayan, you want to start?
England takes the match.
England, okay. How the mighty are fallen, eh? Shit, man, you've been jumping on India. Straight away, England. Anurag?
India, Joe Root will have that rare failure, and that is where the collapse is going to happen.
Aditya?
India win. Comprehensive victory. Rohit Sharma makes 145. Kohli makes about 325 and 325 not out. And we score 550 runs, bat once, England's out of the game.
Aditya smoking that good shit, man.
I have justification for why England might win. Because they'll have a better bowling attack. Plus, their batting will be strengthened in this match if they flick Chris Folks, right?
I'm going to go with India win. And I'll tell you why. I worry about, first of all, Anderson going back to that test. I think he might even pull up, potentially with injury. I think Moe on this wicket might get spanked. I don't think it's been that effective. And I think that Joe Root is due a fail. And you can't carry on this way. I don't believe you can continue to make 100. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think it might just. I think Ashwin should definitely come in, and I think he'll scare the shit out of England. To be honest with you, I think he'll scare the shit out of England. Ollie Pope, I have no faith in that dude whatsoever. The middle order is still brittle. And if Root goes cheap, that middle order is exposed. Big time, man. I think that's the problem. Krishna, if you speak, Krishna's I can't hear you, dude.
Your audio's fucked.
Oh, wait, hello. Can you hear
There
me?
we are. There we are. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I want to ask you. I want to ask you one question. What about either of Dan Lawrence or just Sam Billings, the batsman alone, in place of Ollie Pope as the extra batsman? Would you think that would work?
I don't mind the idea. I think Dan Lawrence has been played 8 Test matches. Pope's been over 20. They're just high on Pope. I personally, Lawrence been at 71, right? 70 odd against New Zealand, where Pope's been at 50 first since last year. I think Dan Lawrence has more opportunity, in my opinion, in that middle order. He needs the same opportunity that Pope's been given for the past 18 months. Sam Billings, I know you're high on Billings because of the CSK connection, and that. But I also like Billings. Man. I also like the idea of Mark Wood. I know Craig Overton well. I'm not a big fan of Craig Overton on a personal level. I shouldn't really allow me to influence professionally how I've assessed the guy. But I like the idea of just a different element to your attack, man hour, etc. Like to bring someone on to get a break, especially at the Oval, which is kind of a bit flat at times. And if you need something to spruce it up, I just feel like Wokes, Robinson, Anderson, Overton, it's all the same. It's right arm over the wicket, 82 miles an hour. And if you're Indian batsman in on a decent wicket, you can make hay. Because there's nothing else. If Sam Curran's out the side, there's no left arm variation. You've got a Jack Leach there, so you've got right arm off spin, right arm orthodox. It's very samey, the bowling attack. So I just think Mark Wood adds an X factor, to be honest. So I'd like to see Mark Wood there. Even though Craig Overton did well, I like Mark Wood being there. I probably would go with Anderson again, because I totally agree with Aditya. I think England needs to really, if they're going to win the series, they've got to hammer the advantage home, because now the momentum is all with them. It's all with England. So they've got to try and get this. I think if they win the next test, they'll win at Old Trafford and they'll win the series, I think. And that'll be an abomination, India, because they're a better side than this. I'm telling you, I don't give a shit what happens here. India are better than England. They are. They're absolutely better. They should not be losing the series. There's no way. This England team is average, man. Average. I think Shastri would be disappointed. He's leaving, isn't he, after the series? I think he'd be upset if he doesn't come away with the win. I think to end his final year with a win in Australia and then a win in England, would you argue because I was one of the greatest coaches ever for India? Arguably, Ravi Shastri. If he does that, I mean,
he didn't win shit.
Okay, you flopped in the championship final. That's one game, isn't it?
T20 World Cup.
And every ICC event that he's ever been a part of, every multilateral event that Kohli has been a part
70. He lost to bloody Pakistan.
What will always haunt Ravi Shastri is the fact that India's selection in his tenure has unfortunately just been diabolical, particularly with respect to ICC events.
Yeah, but whose fault's that, though?
Sorry?
Whose fault's that? Is that him or is that a collective?
In part, I think, look, generally when we assign blame or we assign credit, I think it's always a broad assignment, right? We don't give specific credit to say that this selector was responsible for this structure, So I don't know. Perhaps I do think he has a say in selection, but I think that is one facet of Indian cricket that needs to be sorted out at the team management level. Because the pool of players is there for everyone to see, but how you use them, where you use them is up to the team management. And I don't think they've done that very well, particularly under Ravi Shastri.
I mean, are you guys happy to see the back of him then, Aditya? Are you happy to see the back of Shastri?
I don't know about happy to see the back of him, but I think it's time for some fresh energy in the room, and it would be interesting to see who they consider as replacements, because with Virat Kohli as captain, we know what happened when Anil Kumble was selected as the coach, and an intense personality of that sort is probably not the kind that would sort of go well with Virat. So I don't know who they're looking at or what their shortlist is, but I do think that this process will be will have a lot more tension than we might expect.
I wonder someone like Andy
There are
Flower
three
could
names
slot in.
actually.
Andy Flower could
Yeah,
slot
I
in.
was
Absolutely.
just going to say that. Andy Flower, Mike Hesson,
Absolutely.
Tom Moody.
Tom
Mike
Moody
Hesson,
knows in
yes.
cricket.
Mike Hesson and Tom Moody, yes. Andy Flower, no. Because I think generally look at
They
what's
might
been
grind
happening.
those two. They might just be,
What's
just Coley and Flower.
you look at Anil Kumble and why he went wrong. Because in the current in you look at the last like 10 years in international cricket, okay, Andy Flower's been a successful coach for England. Justin Langer right now, okay, and Anil Kumble. Anil Kumble didn't work out; he was out. Andy Flower, at the beginning of his tenure, he was great because he brought in structure, he brought in data analytics, and uh, he was able to introduce a culture that worked for a period of time. But then it got too much, right? It's exactly the same with Justin Langer. Players are talking about his intensity wearing the team down, and that is exactly what went wrong when Anil Kumble was coach of the team. Because Virat Kohli said that his approach is just putting too much pressure on the players. So I don't think either of those guys would work, but they do need someone who's probably better at man management. Simply because the plan, you don't need to teach these players how to hit a cover drive or how to hit an on drive. But you need to manage these people better. You need to fine tune, as Ravi Shastri says. And I think you need a cooler, calmer personality to do that.
Don't you also need like a good knowledge of how
Of course.
cricket works in India and the politics behind it? Like Tom Moody knows Indian cricket inside out from his time at the IPL, for example. He's the kind of I actually think Tom Moody's a good shout. Mike Hesson as well, but I think Tom Moody's a good shout. I mean, sorry, you want to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a football reference out here because there are so many star players in this lineup. You need a Pep Guardiola kind of a coach to manage these stars. Don't laugh, Krishna.
I don't think Andy Flower's that guy in that case. I think he's a more
You know
of a
who's that
military
guy?
kind of-
It's Maila Javard because he
But he doesn't want
has
to be.
managed MI, right?
He doesn't want to do international coaching though. He's limited to franchise coaching.
Yeah, but surely that
I mean,
can say
Yeah,
change.
that's what I was going to say.
But they asked him the question and he said no categorically. Because
Put
when
a few
you're
zeros
franchise
on his bank
coach-
account, and that might change, innit? You never know, innit? No, true. Do it. Come on. Do you know what I mean? They put enough money in front of him a 2-year contract, 2 years of his life. He might say,
But
"Fuck it,
it's
I'll do
not.
it."
But it's not because you look at the money that Ravi Shastri is making as coach. He's making 7 crores as coach. Uh,
What's that dollars?
Virtually-
I always don't know
7 crores. It's close to $1 million a year.
per year. Is that it? I thought it
Yeah.
was more than that. Okay.
Okay,
No, I thought
so
it
it's
was more
close
than
to
honestly
$1
because
million.
India's. I mean, obviously, yeah. I thought it was more than that.
But if you look at virtually all the IPL coaches, whether it's Anil Kumble or Jayawardene or Stephen Fleming, they're all making somewhere in that $800,000 range.
Well, for 6 weeks'
Yeah.
work. Well, it's not 6 weeks though, is it really? But I know what you're saying.
And then he's also coach of the 100,
Yeah.
at the Southern Braves at the 100.
Yes,
So,
yeah, he was. Yeah.
so he can do that on his own terms, without having to deal with the pressures of a board. So that's there. And being Indian coach is difficult. I think we've seen what happened to Greg Chappell there as well.
Chappell,
He
yeah.
was absolutely vilified at the end of it.
John
I don't know.
White.
Maybe call Gary Kirsten back to India. That might be nice.
Definitely, man. Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Anything to add to that before we wrap up? Krishna?
I mean, the reason I smiled when Mr. Sayan Banerjee said Pep Guardiola is like, why is he bringing Man City propaganda again? Like, why is he doing this? But
Pep Guardiola, Barcelona, Bayern Munich.
no, those days are over. Now he's Man City. But I just want to add to
we
this.
just
this
won the Premier League.
I just want to add to this discussion of coach of an Indian team. See, I think it's very hard. It's a very hard balance because you at the same time need to ensure that you're a good man manager. You gel with the players, you gel with the captain, etc. But also you need to be able to criticize. You need to be able to provide suggestions. You need to be able to sort of sort of I guess debate and dialogue with the captain about ideas and selections and things like that, right? So it's a very hard balance to find, and it's a very hard individual to find also who has that balance, right? Because you're dealing with Virat Kohli, right? You're dealing with one of the greats of Indian cricket, and a very strong character in Virat Kohli. With MS Dhoni, you have leeway for discussion and dialogue because he's not as intense a person, right? But Virat Kohli is a very intense human being, so it's hard to find a character like that. So I don't know, and I don't really know if Tom Moody is the guy. I don't know if Andy Flower is the guy. I don't know if Mike Hessen is the guy, because I mean right now Mike Hessen is there at RCB, and it seems okay for one season, right? But will it work, in the long run with the Indian team?
Do you need an Indian guy then? Do you need an Indian guy maybe?
See,
Which Indian coach are available? Do you think are capable?
see,
MS
with
Dhoni.
the reason why Ravi Shastri at least worked with Virat Kohli is because he's not somebody he's just a guy he's like your buddy, who just chills with you and has a drink with you. Essentially, he's that kind of a coach. He's not somebody who's very intense. Ravi Shastri is a very chilled out, laid back kind of dude, right? And I think that was one of the reasons why I think, and he was in my opinion, a far too laid back. Especially at times when India needed that sort of, they needed that sort of alternate opinion, an alternate voice. When you look at the ICC World Cup of 2019, the reason why we had that big collapse, and the reason why we've had so many collapses for so long now, is a matter. I mean, ultimately, at some level, comes down to a selection issue that has persisted for years on end, right? So you need those sort of small chinks in the armor, and have not been solved. They're still happening even with this fourth test match. Collapses are still happening. Why is it that these collapses are still happening? I mean, can the coach bring in some sort of fresh energy to solve that problem? I hope so, right? I hope, because there definitely needs to be some sort of change in thinking. Whether the coach provides that, maybe, but definitely there needs to be a change in perspective, and like Anurag and Aditya mentioned, a bit of freshness in the dialogue that happens in the dressing room. So for sure.
Guardiola.
Just get Guardiola just at the last minute. Krishna, you a Man U fan?
No, I don't support United. I just like, the thing is, I like shitting on, if somebody supports a team very strongly, I like shitting on them. That's that's what I like to do.
just a club shitter, basically.
Yeah, but I supported Barcelona very strongly when I was in school. And now I've just lost interest in supporting football clubs in general. I don't know. I think that's just my thing. I've just lost passion and interest for the game, I guess.
Support City, you'll get good results.
I don't care about results, man. I care about the feeling that the team gives me when I watch them play. Like that for me is the most important thing.
Support
Hey
Arsenal.
Krishna,
then.
why aren't you applying the same logic to Chennai Super Kings?
Oh, Chennai Super Kings gives me a lot of feelings, man. I've since 2008, dude. When Matthew
No,
Hayden
shouldn't you be
played with
shitting on them?
Mongols- no, I love them.
So we can shit on them.
No, I shit on them. I shit on them when they deserve it. When they need it, I shit on them. So yeah,
Fair
I am
enough.
actually the strongest critic of Chennai Super Kings. You'll find out that I shit on all my players. I shit on Ishwar Pandey all the time, so it's fine.
Who's that guy?
Exactly.
Right. Before we go, we have to say congratulations to Anurag, who was giving us some news off camera. So, do you want to tell us what's going on, man? I don't think Aditya was you here, Aditya? He wasn't, so yeah, Anurag can say.
Hey, some good news, Aditya and everyone. So I'm getting married soon in the month of November. So
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. If only wasn't red lit, man, I could have flew in for the wedding, dude. I could have experienced a proper Indian wedding one day. Look, that's a bucket list thing for me, man. Like
a proper
1,000.
South Indian wedding.
Be amazing, man. How many people are going to be there?
If the COVID restrictions are eased down, probably 400 to 500. If not, just 50 people.
But only, yeah. That's the thing, is like Indian 500 people, etc. Man, flipping heck. But yes, what is it? There was 50 people if restrictions continue as they are.
Yeah. That's correct. They're expecting a third wave to come up in the month of October or November. That is when the restrictions are going to come again.
You know, thought about postponing it until they loosen a bit.
Not really. My brother's going to flow from the US in the month of November, so it's just for him. We've fixed those dates.
Oh, nice, man, nice. Yeah. Well, congratulations, mate. All the best with that.
Thank you so much, guys.
You have to take some photos, send them across, man. That'll be awesome.
Sorry, what was that?
You take some photos and send them across.
Oh,
dude.
definitely. I'll put it on the
man.
group.
Nah,
Definitely.
man, that'd be awesome, man. Congratulations to you, Anurag,
She's
mate.
a cricket fan as well, so yeah, definitely. Some
Get
cricket
her
team,
on, man.
some
one of
cricket
you lot-
team wedding.
Get her on. Hopefully, maybe she talks some sense rather than you guys, eh? Get her on.
We know nothing. We know absolutely nothing. Yeah.
no, but get her on. That'd be cool. Good to get like a wife and husband team, innit?
Yeah, every time I score a single digit in my club match, she scolds me. So yeah, she's a critic as well.
Really amazing, man. Amazing. That's the wife you want. A wife into cricket.
Shay, what about does your wife also watch cricket?
She absolutely hates cricket.
Oh,
She hates it. Yeah, I know.
What?
I managed to find the one Indian girl from Durban who fucking hates cricket. Just my fucking luck, man. I tell you, that honestly does me head in, man. Like I say to her, like, do you ever watch this game? I try to get into it, even a T20, man. Like at the end, like 6 off the last ball, like whatever, like no interest at all. I've tried my best, man. Even my children, I think, unfortunately, my children have my oldest boy has taken her genetics because he didn't give a shit either. I've been forcing him to go down for like 2 years to this club, and I want to go. I just force him, literally grab him to the club every Friday. He don't give a shit either, man. Honestly, I said to Lavinia, my wife, we need to keep having children until one of them loves cricket. I tend to keep. And it's just all I want as an old man is to go to cricket with my children. I don't give a shit. Anything else, that's me done, man. Then I can die happy, man. So to answer your question, Christian, no, unfortunately, she hates it. For you guys, I'm sure you guys are cricket nuts, obviously, love your cricket. So if you're single, I don't know if you guys are single enough properly, but if you're not, if you are, then find someone who loves the game, man. Because your life will be a lot more enjoyable. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. Anyway, anyway, I was going to ask another question about India, but I won't do it this time because we've already hit an hour and 31. I was going to wrap up half an hour ago. Anyway, I know it's late over there. Anyway, just quickly before we go, do you want to let us know where we can find you? Start with you, Sayan.
You can find me on Twitter at Jaffa Merchant and on Instagram at Bastionat.
I love that, man. I'll never get tired of saying that. Krishna?
man, Sayan never gets old. Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook. You can find me all 4 platforms.
Anurag?
Hey, you can find me on Facebook as Anurag Reddy and on Twitter as The Obvious Mad Lad.
Aditya?
Find me on Instagram and Twitter, Aditya Mehta, and the Cricket Fanatics Magazine YouTube channel.
You'll see him every day, 7 p.m. SAST. Not always live anymore, though. They've copped out a bit now, not on the live shows. But you will see Aditya that time. You will see him there. So, yeah. No, but all good. Anyway, thanks so much, guys. No, what time is it over there? What time play? 1 in the morning or something? Fucking hell, okay. Sorry, guys. Right, I'm going to shoot. Listen, thanks so much again, guys. And I'll see you in about a week's time to do the full test review.
Cheers.
Cool. Take care, guys. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.